warm welcome to Bharata First. You're watching Big Picture with me, Frank Rausen Pereira. Since you're here, please like the video, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and share the video so that more people get to know about us. You can also subscribe to our newsletter to get some incisive content. If you like our content, please contribute to keep it alive. A small contribution that you make will be a giant leap for us to keep bringing you this content. Let me also inform you that we have some massive discounts at the Knowledge Center, and we will be closing registrations for the existing packages soon. This is your last chance to get these offerings. I will also be taking live big picture current affairs analysis classes soon, so don't miss out on that. Go to kc.bharatafirst.com and register now. Hundreds are reaping the benefits of the Knowledge Center. Don't be left behind. All this information, along with some must-see recommendations, are in the description of the video. Please go through it. Well, now on to the discussion. 2 workers from Bihar were gunned down by terrorists on Sunday, taking the number of civilians killed in targeted attacks in Jammu and Kashmir this month to 11. The killings came a day after a gol-gappa hawker from Bihar and a carpenter from Uttar Pradesh were shot dead by terrorists in the valley. Of the 11 people killed in the spate of attacks on civilians, 5 were from other states. This indicates that the terrorists want to drive people from other states out of Kashmir. Meanwhile, the ferocity of the fighting between security forces and the group of terrorists holed up in the jungles of Jammu and Kashmir's Poonch district for the last 8 days suggests that the infiltrators were trained by Pakistani commandos. 9 soldiers, including 2 junior commissioned officers, have been killed in the line of duty, fighting these terrorists since last week, in what has become the deadliest encounter for India's military in Jammu and Kashmir in recent years. In this edition of Big Picture, we will analyze the security situation in Kashmir. Joining me on the program today are Mr. S.P. Ved, former DGP of Jammu and Kashmir, and Major General Ashwini Sivach, retired defense and security expert. Thank you to both my guests for joining me on this edition of Big Picture. Mr. Ved, let me start the program with you first. Let's look at the security situation in Kashmir. And I want to focus on the targeted civilian killings that we have witnessed over the last couple of weeks. Your thoughts on that first, and what do you think has led to this?
Frank, see, these targeted killings are definitely, they have changed the security perception in Kashmir. In fact, there is a sense of fear amongst the minority community. Even the majority community is not feeling very comfortable to venture out, and these such targeted killings of civilians have definitely instilled a sense of fear. This reminds of the incidents when we were young SPs in 90, and when minorities were pushed out of Kashmir by targeted killing of minority leaders, resulting into their exodus. But fortunately, India of today is not India of 1990s, and same even Kashmir, the society, the security apparatus, the government is very proactive. The security forces, the security grid is very strong, and people also in Kashmir Valley, both the majority community as well as minority, are much more wiser in the sense that we all have learned lessons in the last 3 decades of terrorism. The good part played by you heard statements of Mayor of Srinagar, Mr. Mattu. Then you had appeals coming from masjids, unlike in early 90s, where it was just the reverse. Today, many mosques came forward and appealing minority community not to migrate, assuring them that we will look after them. So these are positive signs of positive role played by the majority community in Kashmir. Coming to the part that executing is what Pakistan has achieved. See, I personally feel it is 3-4-fold aim. Number one, there was a sagging morale of the terrorist organizations after relentless operations for last 3-4 years, and particularly after abrogation of Article 370 and 35A. A lot of leadership was eliminated. The ranks were eliminated. In fact, they were finding it, the numbers were depleting, and morale of the terrorists was sagging. Replenishing AK-47, the larger weapons, was becoming difficult. So terrorist organizations were finding it difficult to engage with security forces, and rather, whenever they were engaging, they were losing their men and their material. So I think it is a change in the strategy by the ISI, in the sense that to execute such, it is a low investment, high return kind of proposition for the ISI. If I am handler in ISI handling Kashmir, I would prefer something like this, where you create 3, 4, 5 groups of 2 each, and just arm them with small weapons like pistols, grenades, revolvers, and you can create scare, the kind of scare which you are seeing all across the valley. Few killings here and there, but even executing these kind of targeted killings, you need a very strong overground network. After all, somebody identifies the target. Let's say Mr. Bindu was identified, the famous chemist who did not migrate even in the peak of militancy in 3 decades. Who identified? Somebody must have identified him. What time he is to be shot? Well, at the time when there is no police or paramilitary presence there, when to hit him. No, all the take the example of teachers. Teachers are a widely respected community in Kashmir, and particularly they miss the teachers of the minority community, Kashmiri Pandit community, and the way they were identified, the principal Sikh lady and that the man from Jammu, they were identified on the basis of their religion and then targeted. So even there, somebody did survey the schools, identified the target, and then what is the appropriate time to exit. So you need a good network of overground workers. So that was first purpose I think the ISA wanted to achieve. Number 2, I would say the agenda of ISI, what they did in 90s, is cleanse the Kashmir Valley of the minorities, because their agenda actually can be easily manipulated if you have only one particular community. The kind of operation they did, for example, let's say Afghanistan, the Sharia law to be implemented and all this. So if there is only one community, it's much easier for them to the Pakistan's concept of the hardcore Islamic radical Islam is it is antithema to what is India's multicultural, multi-religious society. So whatever minority community remnants were there, their agenda is to push them also out of valley. That is the second purpose I personally feel they were trying to achieve. Third, it is a classical example of terrorism. As I said, low investment and high return time. So look at so much of operations by security forces had reduced the fear of terror. Now suddenly is a kind of scare. Third, if you recall, after abrogation of Article 370, some political leaders started floating a narrative that the majority community of Kashmir would be there would be
demographic would change. Yes, the change in demography.
Change of demography would take place. People from outside will come and settle down. So this is also a message to people coming from outside. For example, you saw a Bihari radiwala to be targeted, Mr. Paswan. That was with this purpose. Don't dare come here, even if you are coming for a radio. So that message also actually the Pakistan wanted to convey. So I think these are multifold purposes why they targeted, and it is much easier than entering into gun battle with security forces. So these are few ideas I could think of why ISI is doing this.
Absolutely. Thank you for so beautifully putting putting it into perspective and taking us through what exactly is happening and how things are panning out in Kashmir. All the experience and serving there has brought out such a wise answer and so much of experience that has come out of you, Mr. Ved. General Saab, let me come to you now. You've been patiently listening to Mr. Ved. Let me bring you in. Okay, let's talk about the gun battles that have taken place, because not just the civilians that have been targeted, there have been several brave men from our armed forces who have lost their lives as well fighting these terrorists. Since abrogation of special status in Jammu and Kashmir in August 2019, we saw such incidents coming down, but now we are seeing them rise once again. How would you look at this, General?
Absolutely. First of all, whatever DGP has said, Mr. Ved, I fully agree with whatever points he has raised and a suggestion also he has given. Now, the question comes is, we have to now see the history as to how it is unfolding. After abrogation of Article 70 and 35A, the complete narrative of Jammu and Kashmir changed. Now, the militancy came down. All-out operation was going at a very fast pace. You find that 400 terrorists were killed in last about 2 years. Leadership of Lashkar-e-Toba, Jaise Mohammed, Hizbul Mujahideen was wiped off. NIA had choked the Hawala money which was coming through Hurriyat. Pathar, that stone throwing business also stopped to quite an extent. And thereafter, this radicalization of youth in South Kashmir also came and dropped tremendously. Now, the whole environment which was changing in Jammu and Kashmir was for development. You'll find that tourism was at the record time high. You find that some industry also venturing in Jammu and Kashmir. Number of medical college and degree college also coming. So you can see the environment in Jammu and Kashmir was of a development and progress, which was not to the liking of Pakistan. Pakistan thought they have lost the game. And at the top of that, the counter-infiltration grid of Indian armed forces was so strong, they were not able to send a fresh infiltration. And hence the weapons were also become very short. As far as residual terrorists which were left, they were about 150 or so. In case if the counter-terrorism kept on going like this, we could have achieved a finishing of insurgency or militancy in another about 2 years. Now, having said so, what has happened is there has been a change, especially due to what is happening in Afghanistan. Now, that has made a tremendous impact in Jammu and Kashmir. If you take your mind back in 1990, when the Soviet Union withdrew from Afghanistan, that is the time when Mujahideen came in Jammu and Kashmir along the Stinger missile, and that is the time when the militancy and terrorism started. Now, how it is linked with Afghanistan is 2, 3 things. One is that, very cleverly, the Pakistan has first mooted an idea of a ceasefire with India in February this year, and we accepted that as a good neighbor. But what actually they did, they concentrated toward their western sector, toward Afghanistan. Having achieved what they wanted, the Taliban has already come in Afghanistan. They have got a strategic depth. Now is the time they have shifted the focus back to Jammu and Kashmir. Now, 2, 3 things very importantly have happened. That 8 to 10,000 Lashkar-e-Toba, Jaise Mohammed terrorists which were fighting in Afghanistan along with the Taliban against Afghan forces and American forces are now available to the ISI to be pumped in Jammu and Kashmir. And complete launch pads are full. About 500 terrorists are sitting on a launch pad. Then there are about 2,000-3,000 sitting in a staging area and another 2,000-3,000 in training camp. So much is the terrorists waiting to be infiltrated. That's a very different thing, that we are not letting them to infiltrate by a strong infiltration grid. Having said so, what they are now doing is that one is there is a change of tactics as far as the infiltration attempts are concerned. Now, what is that? One is that initially when they were short of drone, they have made short of ammunition and weapon, they have made use of drones. There are a lot of weapons and ammunition has also come through drones, but it wasn't sufficient to keep the militancy on in Jammu and Kashmir. Hence, this hybrid warfare has been started. which was low investment, high yield warfare, which DGP was trying to convey. Basically, to kill one and terrorize 100. And second thing is, those people who were basically part of the society, give OGW, give them a small weapon, let them go and hit the target which is being directed, and thereafter come and mix with the society. Very difficult to detect. Now that is the new pattern which was started by ISI in Jammu, in hinterland, because they realized that they were losing the game. At the same time, now when they have got 8 to 10,000 Lashkar-e-Toba, Jaise Mohammed terrorists available to them, now they will try to pump in. And now all the terrorists which will now come will be battle hardened. They have seen the war type situation in Afghanistan. Now the case in point is, if we are seeing an operation which is going in Surankote, wherein we have lost almost 7 brave hearts of Indian security forces, and we are still not able to achieve a success. There may be a signature of the new terrorist which has come out of this. This has to be a certain once we'll kill them. But my point is, this is a new threat which is looming large. Now, this is a time when the maximum infiltration attempts are made up till December, because that is the time when the passes, heavy snowfall take place, and thereafter the passes close it. But to me, it looks like that this winter is going to be very hot, because there are so many terrorists waiting. They will not wait for, not only that they will pump in now, they will even pump in even in winter, because their aim is to somehow ever send maximum terrorists in Jammu and Kashmir and ensure that terrorism can keep on boiling up the way it was happening. So this is what we have to be very alert. Second thing is, they are trained better, they are motivated, and they will be equipped with a better weapon, because they are getting M4 and M16 rifle which were left by the Americans. Americans have left behind $60 to $80 billion weapons in Afghanistan, and few of these weapons have been even this terrorist group have managed to get it. So they are equipped with the best of the weapon system. They are trained, motivated. They are the terrorists which will now try to be infiltrated in India, and we have to be very alert and alive. And second thing, another worry is the Islamic State Khorasan and Al Qaeda has also become very alert and active in certain parts of Afghanistan, because Taliban is not able to handle that. And Islamic State Khorasan is a big threat to India, because there are certain radicalized youth of our southern part of the country, especially in Kerala, and there are few boys which have joined them. So there is a chance during this festive season, Islamic State Khorasan trying to create a communal disturbance by ID blast and all. So in hinterland also we have to worry, not only in Jammu and Kashmir, but also in the rest of the country. At the same time, worry now about two type of threat which is looming large. One is that the new terrorists try to infiltrate on line of control, and second, this new hybrid warfare which has been started by ISI to cleanse the Kashmir Valley of Kashmiri Pandit and Kashmiri Sikh.
Absolutely, General. Mr. Ved, I want to take your attention back to a point that you were making earlier in your opening remarks about the overground support and how the surveys will have to be conducted, and how a plan has gone into these kind of targeted killings and what the terrorists and militants are doing on the ground. So what is the kind of overhead support that these terrorists and terrorist organizations get? Is it people from Pakistan who are giving them the support? How does this all work?
See, Frank, first I'll like to endorse what General Saab said, and how there is a danger of diverting terrorists and American weapons towards in the hands of terrorists who will be operating in this part of the world, particularly Lashkar and Jaish. That danger continues. And coming to your point, see, the terrorists have a very strong OGW network, which I witnessed when I was DGP immediately after Burhan's incident. If you recall, post Burhan Wani incident, how huge mobs used to be mobilized. So huge in a day, 50 to 60 stone pelting incidents used to take place. Any side you move, army, police, paramilitary, the roads were cut. They were blocked by electric poles, by trees, and dug. Many of the roads were dug. District headquarters were cut. So there's a huge network. No one can deny this in Kashmir. Which terrorists make best use of to know the movement of security forces, to identify the targets, to eliminate them, to even carry weapons from one place to the other, because they sometimes, let's say, terrorist group has to move from Kupwara to South Kashmir. So terrorists will generally not carry ammunition and arms, weapons. They will use OGW network, and themselves they'll go in different way. So there is a very strong network of upper ground workers. That is why our focus in 16 onwards has been to break this upper ground network, because this is more dangerous than terrorists. Terrorists, after all, come in front of you and they get eliminated. But this overground. So we must have registered thousands of cases. And I recall, I think Public Safety Act detentions, I must have gone for thousands of them, which actually broke the backbone. And unfortunately, that tempo does not continue with successive change in leadership, but that actually should continue. So these OGW networks in each district is actually made use of by terrorists for multiple purposes, for as I was saying, to identify, to carry arms, to execute things, to keep a watch on the security forces, in all those purposes which terrorists actually do, even surveillance, intelligence, and all those things. So even getting new recruits, using peer group to get new recruits. So all these networking is done. Now that is why I'll come to the point which I want to mention is the ecosystem which actually exists in Kashmir. We need to dismantle it. That is very important. Just killing terrorists will not solve your problem. Removing 370 and 35A will not solve your problem. You need to go with a very heavy hand in dismantling this ecosystem. It has many facets. It will take a lot of time if I elaborate on it. You go into different parts of the society, whether it is intelligentsia, whether it is media, whether it is your education system, your universities, your bureaucracy. You have ISI infiltration in almost many of these parts of the Kashmir society. So you need to dismantle that. And another thing which I want to mention here, which is very important, we will continue to be fingered by ISI as long as boys keep joining terrorist ranks. So you need to ensure that no more recruits are available for terrorist ranks. For that, you have hundreds of madrasas running in Kashmir and thousands of them in all across India. Does somebody look into it? Where is the funding coming from? Jamaat-e-Islami run madrasas. Who is teaching them? Whether they are being imparted pure religious education, Islamic education, or are they serving as radicalizing centers? So I think somebody needs to keep a watch on. You recall the President Macron of France came out with an action plan for his country to check the onslaught of radical Islamist political agenda, and he has done that. I think something like that we need to go for. As General Saab was mentioning, you have problems coming which are becoming visible in Kerala, in Bengal, in some cities of UP, in Hyderabad. You see the kind of statements such radical elements are making. I think today, like many other countries, have come out with an action plan after Taliban takeover of Afghanistan. I think India needs to think about it and come up with an action plan. That's very, very important. So I wanted to make this point.
Absolutely. Very valid points. Well taken. Let's see what actually happens, because planning is one thing, but actually carrying it out and implementing it on the ground is another thing altogether. And with so much of political pressure and political, political things to look into, I don't know if it will actually happen, but I hope it does. General, coming to you now, since a concerted effort is being made in Kashmir to try and destabilize the region and instill a sense of fear in the people, both local and from outside, who would like to go there and make a living. What is the kind of coordination that actually takes place between the various security forces and arms that are present in the valley and between the army as well as the police? And do you believe that that needs to be improved going forward if you have to really break this ecosystem, as Mr. Ved is suggesting?
Yeah, absolutely. Frank, I fully agree. First of all, this ecosystem is very robust. And at time, we start enjoying or celebrating our victory too fast. We think that we are able to kill almost about 300 to 400 terrorists. And now the situation is under control. We are able to eliminate the leadership of Lashkar-e-Toba, Jaise Mohammed, Hizbul Mujahideen. And we do get input from the locals, there's no doubt. But it is all input which is due to pecuniary gains. So what happened is that slowly and surely, there is the ecosystem which is existing of OGW, sleeper cell, which is a part of society. They are not visible and they play a major role. It means if the terrorist is a fish, the OGW and also sleeper cell is the water. So the fish can't stay without water, and this therefore OGW and sleeper cell plays a very important role, and they are so much intervened in the society, very difficult to find out. Now, the moment as a security forces you go after all these OGW and also sleeper cell, there is a counter reaction from the society, and you find the people coming in the street agitating. So you get a false sense and you feel it that I think you are overdoing it. And hence the pressure comes on it. So case in point is this cordon and search operation used to go on earlier when General Ved, Mr. Ved was the DGP. It also has stopped because they thought that's an inconvenience caused to the public. But one should realize it, otherwise this OGW network function without fear. And this is what's happening now. Now you have to come back again, the CASO and all have to start off, round up these OGW, because they played a major role to ensure this hybrid warfare carry on. Now, this new hybrid warfare is what we have not, experienced so far, because they look innocuous. You can't make out who has done this. Till now, we have not able to find out who were the perpetrators who have able to kill Makhan Lal Bidru as well as the teacher and the principal. We are only anticipating, saying that possibly they were the terrorists. They were all OGW because they have mixed up with the society, very difficult to identify. So therefore, this is a new challenge which has come and we have to now coordinate that. Now, what the point which we're trying to convey is the youth which is coming from down below to seek a job, there is a better security system which we have to provide. And this was a false security system which possibly we gave to them. And we thought that the situation is returning to a normalcy. To some extent, it was a fact. You can find that in certain parts of Srinagar, you could never move without weapons. And you never seen an Indian flag flying there. But now even a Lal Chowk, you find Indian flag there, people moving without any security cover. So there is a change of environment, there is no doubt. But at the same time, undercurrents are there. And undercurrents have become more visible after what this hybrid warfare had done, target killing of Kashmiri Pandit and Kashmiri Sikh. And now, in case Kashmiri Pandit, which are about 5,000 to 6,000, Kashmiri Sikh, which are about 1.5 lakhs and 2 lakh, in Singhpura and Patan, if they, under threat and fear, migrate from Valley to Jammu, then it will be a complete security failure on part of Indian government and security forces, because it will be very difficult for them to be brought them back. So this is the challenge. Now, as far as your point which you are saying is how coordination is done, the coordination is being done mainly by the civil society, by the police, as well as the civil administration. So that sense of security is given. As far as these Kashmiri Pandit and Kashmiri youth is concerned, which have migrated, and they have been given job by the Jammu and Kashmir civil administration, they are kept in a camp and the security is provided. And from there they are working. So it is not that they have now gone back to the area where they belong. They may be working in those areas, but they are not staying there. They are staying in a, no, this was a new venture which was started by a government, a step in a right direction, that the jobs which are to be given to Kashmiri Pandit and other, Hindus from Jammu, give them a job, let them stay in camp and give them provide them a security. No, that was working so fine so far, but what this hybrid warfare has also brought a question mark to that security which was being provided. So that's why another issue which I want to bring out, Frank, is, what is happening in Afghanistan will not only bring instability in Jammu and Kashmir, also all around the area. What is happening as on today, that in Afghanistan, there is a chance of a civil war type situation occurring, because what they have not been recognized by any country, including by Pakistan. They do not have funds to run the country. They need $6 to $8 billion. And today that acceptability is not there because there is no inclusive government. Now, if there is no inclusive government and no acceptability, no world institutions and financial institutions going to give them a fund like IMF and World Bank. So in that case, there will be a chaos and confusion. Islamic State, Khorasan and Al-Qaeda is also now trying to exert itself. There is a chance of a civil war situation occurring in Afghanistan. That also flowing to Pakistan. Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan become very bold and start militant and terrorist action in Pakistan. It also wants Sharia law in Pakistan, which Pakistan is it prepared. You find in Balochistan Liberation Army freedom struggle will start off. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, you'll find Pashtun, which do not recognize Durand Line, will also now venture for freedom, and they want to join with Pashtun of Afghanistan. 15 to 20 lakhs refugees, chances of their coming toward Pakistan, which Pakistan itself, each financial crisis cannot do. Now, all this situation building up in Afghanistan and Pakistan, you cannot close your eyes. It will have direct impact in India and direct impact, especially in Jammu and Kashmir. So, no, that point we have to see it. You find instability occurring not only in Afghanistan, but also coming to Pakistan, and Pakistan trying its best that instability come toward India, trying to push maximum terrorists, try to adopt new techniques of sending weapons through drone, infiltrate them, and whatever time we have given after February till now.
Right. General points taken. Let me now quickly get closing comments from both my panelists with the best way forward and what needs to be done. Limited time, so I'm going to ask you to be brief, starting first with you, Mr. Wade.
See, number one, a heightened surveillance and heightened anti-infiltration grid on the border, which is very, very important, because as General pointed out, there is a danger of terrorists being pushed along with new arms towards Valley and to later on create problem in other parts of the country. Number two, as I said, a close watch of the society and the intelligence agencies on the madrasas, on the schools and masjids where radicalization is taking place. That is very important, not only in Kashmir, other parts of the country. Number three, to prevent incidents like what happened in Mumbai, what happened, attacks on Akshardham, on Raghunath Mandir in Jammu, Ayodhya in UP. This is with the intention of creating communal rights, and there is no change in the policy of ISI and the Pakistan Army. They will continue to engineer such incidents to create communal tensions in the country. So all these things, I think, apart from what I mentioned about action plan of France by President Macron. So all these need to be implemented. I think that's what you are going to see heightened activity in the coming winter and months ahead. So we have to be very, very careful.
Absolutely. And General, close the show for us with your concluding remarks.
Yeah, Frank, for us, the threat is multi-pronged. One is on line of actual control against China. You will find this winter, we have to be very alert. There are about 50 to 60,000 troops which are deployed on either side. So there again, the threat is looming large. Now, coupled with it, this infiltration attack will be made now by Pakistan with new terrorists which are battle-hardened and equipped with a modern weapon. We have to make sure our counter-infiltration grid is very robust and stable. As far as hinterland is concerned, what DGP has already brought out, certain these measures have to be adopted. Two additional things. One is madrasa, fully agreed. Madrasa cannot be left to their own. They should not be given funds. And mosque and all, you cannot leave them without even monitoring what even Maulvis are saying. So far, it looks like that they are on the right track, but still monitor that. Then the CASO has to start, cordon search operation, which used to be there, on information. It may create an inconvenience to a public, but that's a requirement of day. You can't do without it in case you have to stop this new challenge called hybrid warfare. That is a second point. And third is that a sense of confidence has to be given to a minority combination like Sikh and Kashmiri Pandit, that the nation is with them. They must stay there in Kashmir Valley. Give them all protection which is required. Give them that confidence which is required so that they stay there. As far as hinterland is concerned, this festive season is a challenge for us. Right. We have come a long way. We have come a long way because what has happened is our NIA is playing a very active role. This Mohammad Ashraf, which has been just now arrested in basically in Delhi, just about a week back, was a step in the right direction. There are many OGW and sleeper cell which are working all part of the country. So far in last 10 to 15 years, we have been lucky. We have not let this happen. But this festive season, this winter is going to be very different. We have to be very, very alert. And there is a requirement of coordination at state, at central government, and at security and agencies to ensure that we have a very stable counter-infiltration grid as well as a counter-terrorist group working rest of the country. Frank.
Absolutely. All right, gentlemen, we'll have to leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. Well, what's coming out of this discussion is that the result of what we are witnessing in Kashmir is Pakistan changing its strategy in the region. With multiple failed attempts to hurt India after the abrogation of special status, the deep state in Pakistan is resorting to a low investment, high return policy or strategy. The terrorists are trying to instill fear in the public. Terrorists are a big problem in the valley, but the bigger problem is the overground network to carry out such attacks. This ecosystem needs to be broken and dismantled at the earliest, and it is no easy task. With the change of situation in Afghanistan, we will see heightened activity at our borders with Pakistan. We have to be extremely vigilant and proceed with caution. Now, before I go, let me once again remind you to like the video, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and share the video as well so that more people get to know about us. You can also subscribe to our newsletter to get some incisive information. If you like our content, please contribute to keep it alive. A small contribution that you make will be a giant leap for us to keep bringing you this content. Let me also inform you that we have some massive discounts at the Knowledge Center, and we will be closing registrations for the existing packages soon. This is your last chance to get these offerings. I will be taking live big picture current affairs classes soon, so don't miss out on that. Go to kc.bharatafirst.com and register right now. Hundreds are reaping the benefits of the Knowledge Center. Don't be left behind. All this information, along with some must-see recommendations, are in the description of the video. Please go through it. That's it from me. See you again next time.